Okay, so I just watched the newest episode of Deadliest Warrior, Teddy Roosevelt versus Lawrence of Arabia, and got some things to talk about. So in this episode, I actually spoiled it a little bit earlier, which is not what I usually do, but for this episode I wanted to figure out because um, I wanted to see if there was going to be some American bias, and Teddy Roosevelt winning, like when I initially saw that, I kind of like immediately said, "Oh, it's American bias." But when I watched the episode, it's like they made some good points, so I took back my statements. But uh, is anyone else kind of tired of the U.S. winning? Like, I have nothing against the U.S., but um, it's kind of weird. It's kind of annoying to see the U.S. Um, like anyone representing the U.S. win every time. Like, I want to see like an opponent actually defeat the U.S. Like, cause it's to the point where any person from the U.S. is gonna look like the dominant person, and anyone facing them is the underdog. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. All right. So, anyways, the actual episode, like I said, Teddy Roosevelt won. Some points to make. Uh, I kind of thought Lawrence of Arabia would have the advantage because he's a few years ahead of Teddy Roosevelt, and he has like the Vickers machine gun, which is like it's newer than the Gatling gun, but when they actually showed it on the show, they did make a good point, like the Vickers machine gun like jammed, and the Gatling gun it never jammed, and there was like no recoil and stuff like that. And they also there was actually a good point that the Gatling gun was remade into the minigun. So honest like honestly, I mean, not honestly, but the even the experts in the end of the episode, they admitted Teddy Roosevelt only won because of the Gatling gun. And you might argue against that, but when you look at the results, like Lawrence of Arabia, he had a 3-to-1 advantage in X factors. Um, he had the short range advantage. Tied with the rifle. He had the better tactics. And I think the only major point that Teddy Roosevelt got was with the Gatling gun, and that was the thing that got his victory. Which it's kind of like that idea where there's gonna be one weapon that's gonna dominate the whole thing, like in Shaolin Monk. It was the twin hooks that dominated the Maori warrior. And I usually don't like these kinds of endings, and this one, but I usually don't like these endings because it kind of like defeats the whole purpose of a warrior getting all the edges. I mean, most of the edges and winning. But they actually made some valid points, and um, to start with, the first test I want to talk about is, let me think. It's not really a test, but it's the comparison test between tactics. They made some. I really, what's the word? I really thought that they would give this to Lawrence of Arabia, and they did, because when you think about it, like in history, Teddy Roosevelt was like charged on San Juan Hill, like it was amazing and all, but he sort of the plan was sort of just run up a hill against gunfire. I mean, it's not the smartest plan. I mean, it worked, but I'm pretty sure a lot more of, and not maybe not a lot more, but more of Roosevelt's men died than actual Spanish did. Like, I have to research the numbers. And Lawrence of Arabia, he's a guerrilla fighter, and guerrilla fighters tend to have like the more sneaky strategies. Like, they tend to think more um, than the person they're facing against. Like, that's just my own opinion. So they gave the edge to Lawrence of Arabia, which I agree with. In the short range test, it was the Bowie Hunter versus the Jambia dagger. This one was very obvious. I mean, like, um, it's a freaking big dagger. Like, just watch the episode and you'll instantly get what I'm trying to say. Um, for the rifle test, this one was dead even, and this one I actually have to agree with the even because I honestly don't know which would be better because I like the fact that the SLME has more power, but it has more recoil, whereas the Krag, it's a lot more accurate, but it's not as powerful. So it's whether you want stopping power or whether you want accuracy. Like, so it's fine if it's even. So uh, I agree with that one. And the last test, Gatling gun. Um, I honestly was going for the Vickers machine gun, but after I saw it like jam, like maybe you can argue, I can argue that in another situation, maybe the Gatling gun might jam. I don't know for sure. I don't claim to be an expert on Gatling guns, and maybe at some other time the Vickers won't jam up, uh, but it jammed up pretty early in the episode, so yeah, I would have given it to the Gatling gun, despite me wanting the Vickers to win. And yeah, so that was for the test, and then we had the X factors, and the X factors they gave it mostly to Lawrence of Arabia. Uh, it was for tactics, endurance. I mean, endurance. They obviously had to give it to Lawrence. I mean, he's the guy who walked through the desert and can run a mile in 5 minutes. And what was it? Where was the other one? I don't remember what the third one, but the one that Teddy got, it was Calm Under Fire. And that X Factor I have to argue against because Calm Under Fire, you would have to know the guy to know if he's calm under fire. I mean, I know that Teddy Roosevelt's the guy that he's the one who ran up the hill against like gunfire, but like it's something where this is an X factor that you have to honestly know the person to know their personality. Are they truly the person to run up the hill? Do they feel fear sometimes, or maybe it was just that one time because of adrenaline that Teddy felt like he could do it. I mean, maybe that was how he lived, but that was that one situation. I mean, you gotta know the person personally to actually compare against them. Compare against this X Factor, in my opinion. So, anyways, after all the testing, they go to the simulation, and I have to say this simulation was actually kind of cool, and it actually keeps you kind of guessing to see who'd win, and um, it starts okay. It starts out with Teddy Roosevelt and his like Rough Rider crew, and they're just like hanging out, they're chilling with their Gatling gun. Then all of a sudden, Teddy Roosevelt turns around and sees Lawrence of Arabia come up the hill, and you can tell it's Lawrence because you know he's wearing the Arab garb, and like Arab music starts playing when he walks up the hill, and this part I actually had to note because I think this is the first time, I have to check, but this is the first time in a simulation where the two guys actually looked at each other with like a certain look of respect. It looked like they respected each other, not like in other episodes where it's just like a guy who's angry and he wants to kill the other guy. So they look at each other. Then Lawrence of Arabia tells his Bedouin tribesmen to bring up the Vickers, and all of a sudden Teddy freaks out because like he didn't expect a fight, and he gets the guys to get the Gatling gun together, and they shoot out. Some guys die, and eventually the Vickers jams up because they have to incorporate the jam from the test, and Lawrence and his crew like they scatter, and Teddy orders his two guys to check out and see where they went. And this part was kind of like, this part was kind of cool because they tried to incorporate the fact that Lawrence was a guerrilla fighter, so he would try like the sneaky tactic, and they also mentioned his tactic of diversion, when they were doing strategy comparisons, Lawrence of Arabia, he blew up like a railroad station to confuse the Turks. Not Turks, Ottomans. and they incorporated that in the simulation, but instead they have a stick of like sticks of dynamite and they blow up, and it just completely confuses Teddy Roosevelt because he starts firing in the direction of the dynamite. And this part I had to question, if they had dynamite, how come they didn't test that in the show? I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe by a long shot Teddy Roosevelt didn't use explosives. I doubt that, but they should have done like an explosives test comparison. I don't know what happened there. But anyways, so Lawrence of Arabia, he blows up the dynamite, and Teddy Roosevelt starts freaking out. Like he orders his men to start shooting in the direction of the dynamite. At this point, usually in battle, at this point, like the guys who start freaking out, like this is where the guerrillas have like advantages, because Teddy doesn't know where they are, so Lawrence could have just easily picked them off, but somehow, Teddy and his Rough Riders managed to eliminate a lot of the tribesmen, even though like a lot of them died. Because the tribesmen suck at hiding. Like there were this was a field of bushes, and there was like a lot of places where they could have hid and run, to keep them confused as to where they are. So I don't know how they could have messed that up, because well, it's a simulation, so in real life they couldn't have messed that up, and Lawrence could have just won that battle right there. But that's a whole different discussion. So eventually it's down to Teddy and Lawrence. I mean, and before that they ran to this trench, and Lawrence took out the last Rough Rider. So it's just Lawrence versus Teddy, and it ends with like a dagger duel, and eventually Teddy catches Lawrence with a punch, and then he hits him with his knife, and it's over. And yeah, that's the simulation. It was a good simulation, actually, and I actually like what they had to say at the end. Like, they they didn't go on this tirade where they were like, Teddy was an amazing, like, he defined America, like Richard Mackwitz kind of did that, but they also showed respect for Lawrence. I mean, like, even Dr. Dorian was the guy who said, Teddy tried to prove himself every day. He wanted to be a person like Lawrence. So that kind of put Teddy on a different light when he said that. It made him look like he was the underdog this whole time. So I don't know. Dr. Dorian's statement confused me. I mean, produced some weird feelings for me. But anyways, so that's my so those are my thoughts on the episode. Overall, it's not a bad episode. It was one of the more enjoyable episodes of the series, and I look forward to the next matchup. I think it's I have to look, but I think it's the Ivan the Terrible versus Hernan Cortez episode. That, or it's the Crazy Horse versus Pancho Villa. I have to check. But until then, those are my thoughts.